Which Side Podcast is a proud member of the Which Side Media Collective.
This week's episode sponsor is brought to you by our Amazon affiliate link.
It's pretty simple how it works. You're going to buy something from Amazon because pretty much everyone does, and you want to give us a kickback for it. So you use our link. You go to our website, click our link, buy what you're going to buy anyways, and Amazon gives us a little bit of that money. Doesn't cost you anything. In fact, Amazon just loses out on the deal if you were already planning on it.
So just go to whichsidepodcast.com and click on that link. I totally recommend the soy curls from Butler. They are really, really good.
I've never cooked with them. I've only ever had them at restaurants. It's like one of those things that if you want your at-home dinners to taste like what you get at the fucking amazing vegan restaurants, this is what they use.
And it's different than TVP. Like, I don't know how to explain it. It has a different taste to it.
We mentioned the jerky a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
This is what the jerky is made out of.
Oh, yeah.
So good. Oh, it's such amazing stuff. So this is the real deal. If you want, chicken salad sandwiches that's the best you've ever had, soy curls.
Whichsidepodcast.com.
This is episode 132.
Yeah, we have Carolyn Scott-Hamilton on from The Healthy Voyager. She has a cookbook called The Healthy Voyager's Global Kitchen.
It's amazing. I was flipping through the cookbook, and it's one of the first times I've ever wanted to actually try borscht.
I love borscht.
I know you do. But it's an awesome cookbook. We'll have a link to it in our show notes. Check it out. It's not your average cookbook. It's way fucking awesome. Jordan, what news and events do we have going on?
If you're in Salt Lake City on Thursday, there is a Zombies Against Tar Sands march at the Gallivan Center. So dress up as a zombie and march against tar sands.
No real zombies, please.
If you're a real zombie, you're not welcome.
For the slingshot this week, May 24th, 1856. John Brown led a party and killed 25 pro-slavery settlers.
Wow.
That's being a fucking abolitionist.
Yeah.
If you like these little tidbits of history, I pulled them out of the Slingshot Personal Organizer. You can get one for yourself at a local info shop or at an online info shop like AK Press.
They still need your help, so support them.
Yeah. And they don't even pay us to do this. They're not a sponsor. We just fucking love them. So support them.
I really hope you enjoyed this episode.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side? Which side are you on? 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 Which side are you on?
Hi guys.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Doing well.
Nice. How's the weather up in Salt Lake?
It's been rainy a lot lately.
Yeah, us too. We need it though. So it's been pretty nice.
Yeah, we had like next to no snow over the winter, and so it's at least refilling our watershed, so that's good.
It's only
Yeah.
It's only adding 2% though to our watershed.
2%'s better than no percent.
It is better than no percent. But when we were down like 30 something % from normal drought years, so
Are you guys in a bad drought like we are, or
not as
medium?
bad?
Yeah, ours is awful. I remember last summer, Dan and I drove up to the Kern River. We'd never been up there. We're like, let's just go tube down that thing. And we passed by one giant lake that kind of the Kern River feeds into, and it looked like a puddle. And there were like trees sticking out of it, and there were people still trying to jet ski on it. And I was like, this is really sad.
yeah, the whole West has been, pretty much drought ridden. I just think California gets a lot of the attention just because of how big the economy is and how much of an impact it has.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, most of the water gets sucked up by agriculture,
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
it's funny how restaurants are like, oh, we're not going to give you water anymore. We're like, that really doesn't make a difference, but
Wait,
like,
just-
okay.
There's restaurants that actually say we're not going to give you water.
I think you have to
Yeah,
ask for it.
unless, yeah, you have to ask for it. I had one, and this is the only time I've had someone say it like this, which I thought was bizarre. The waiter was like, sorry, we didn't bring you water. If I bring it to you, it's illegal. And I was like, what? I'm pretty sure that's not true, but I was like, all right. I was like, I'm cool. I'll ask for it when I'm thirsty. Like, I was like, I don't know if it's illegal, but if you say so.
I'm sorry.
Super weird.
I wonder if he had his supervisor actually say that, if you're uncomfortable, just say it's illegal. No one will question you.
Yeah. I was like, can you imagine like the pre-shift meeting where they're talking about water and you're like, all right, this is a stretch, guys, because I haven't heard any. And there are plenty of other restaurants that just give it to you when you sit down. So like this particular one was very adamant about their rules.
So what is the water talk like there? Are they really focusing on like, alfalfa, or are they actually focusing on, other aspects of the agriculture?
Well, mainly it's a lot of people who like to snitch on their neighbors. And my neighbor is actually one of those people who like to snitch on people who are watering their lawns too much. We had restrictions like last year. It was like Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays are the only days you're supposed to water your lawn. And now it's just Tuesdays and Saturdays or something like that. So there's a lot of talk about that, about water restrictions for watering your lawn. And I think, I did hear on the news once that, restaurants are going to start just giving it to you if you ask for it. But yeah, I mean, it's no, and and there was a good stretch of time where they were blaming the almond farmers.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, guys, no, like you guys are way off. It's the cows. It's the cows and the dairy farms and all that crap. But of course, God forbid they talk about that on the news.
It's funny. A couple weeks ago, my daughter had a school assignment where she was supposed to come home and calculate her average water use. And so there was this website she was supposed to go to, and she was supposed to go back to class, and they're going to talk about it. And she shows it to me. I'm like, there's no way in hell they're going to be accurate on this and bring in dietary choices and everything. But she went to the website, and the second question was, are you vegan or vegetarian? And
Wow.
And it broke it down like, yes, you're vegan, or you're vegetarian, or you eat meat, or how much do you eat meat? So she calculated it out, and she's like, our family of 3, according to this calculator, uses less water than one average meat eater in the United States just because we're vegan.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I was pleasantly surprised that it was, actually in there.
Ooh, what's that website? That would be something fun to promote.
Oh, man, I'd have to go dig through her homework. I don't know off the top of my head. It was a government one. I know that.
Interesting.
Yeah. And it asked some pretty good questions, like, do you have, gray water systems, and talk about the benefit of gray water systems and things like that, where, it was a little more in depth than when I was in second grade.
Yeah.
So how has your weekend been?
Let's see. It's such a crazy busy weekend, and all I want to do is sleep. Last night I had a friend's book launch party, and then after that I had a friend's going away party, and before that I had to make the cupcakes for the party, and so that was crazy. And after this I have to go get dolled up because I'm going to the Humane Society Gala, so it's time to put on some Spanx and do my hair and makeup and go do that. And then tomorrow we're having a weird garage sale. And I say weird because basically somebody's coming to pick up some giant gym thing that we have in the garage that we never use. So we have to pull everything out of the garage to get it out. So then I was like, well, we may as well sell whatever other crap we pull out. So it's kind of that. So it's just kind of a nutty, weird, non-relaxing weekend.
Do you by chance have any old vintage Pyrex?
I do not.
Oh, my wife collects vintage Pyrex, so
That's awesome.
A standard
No,
question.
we're selling our old bedroom furniture because it's in the garage because we've been trying to sell it. And I was like, look, We have to pull it out to get this damn gym thing out. So once it's out, I'll, put it on the lawn. And if someone wants it, great. And if someone doesn't, then it's not going back in the garage. Then Salvation Army's going to come get it.
So what is your go-to cupcake recipe? Like, what do you do, the vinegar kind of recipe?
Yeah, I love that with anything that's chocolate, because
Mhm.
it really brings out the flavor, or like red velvet. But yeah, yesterday my friend requested chocolate peanut butter, so my peanut butter icing is pretty rad. So it was a big hit, and unfortunately, I still have a couple left over, and I begged everyone to take them with, and now they're staring at me. So it will be double Spanx for my dress tonight.
I am the worst when it comes to sweets. I can't turn down cakes ever.
It's hard. And I was talking to somebody last night. I was like, oh, I don't really like sweets. And I kind of just wanted to punch him. I was like, you're so full of it. Who doesn't like sweets? Like, you're insane. I'd rather eat chips. No way. I want cake.
I always feel bad, like, being vegan for so long, I restricted my diet so much. It's like, why do I have to restrict it even more? Like, it's
true.
Just give it to me.
Well, I was thinking about that the other day, like when people that are really big want to lose weight, all they have to do is cut out soda and they lose like 100 pounds. And I'm like, man, I was like, for me, I have to like eat air to lose weight, like, because I already have nothing left, So yeah, we're so restricted already. It's like, what else can we cut out before we're like totally miserable?
I'm one of those unlucky ones where I cut out soda and lost nothing.
Oh. It's all those damn cakes.
Yeah, it's probably true.
Oreo cookies.
So how did you, really get into veganism? Like, what's your origin with veganism?
Well, I started in 98. It's a really stupid reason. I moved to LA and everyone was like stick thin. And I thought, oh my God, I want to lose like 10 pounds. And so somebody had mentioned this book to me called Fit for Life. And Fit for Life was a book written in the 70s by this couple. I think they were doctors. And it just kind of resonated with me. It wasn't necessarily a book about veganism. It was more about food combining. Excuse me, food combining with your carbs and your proteins. And they did talk a lot about animal proteins, what it does, dairy, and it just made so much sense to me. And the light went off and I went vegan the next day, cold turkey. I didn't do the vegetarian to vegan. It was just like done. And part of it was like, oh, I'd rather eat carbs than proteins, hence the sweets. And so I did that, and I kind of lived on guacamole and cucumber sandwiches for a while. And then I thought, well, this kind of sucks. So I got a lot of questions like, where do you get your protein? The usual. And this was back then. I didn't know any other vegans. I didn't know anybody. There wasn't even a Whole Foods out here yet. So I was kind of floating around here in space. And I thought, well, since I'm going to do it, and I want to do it right. So I went to culinary school, and then I also got my master's in holistic nutrition because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't, going to be deficient or anything like that. So, so I started way back then, and here I am 16 years later. Yep. Crazy town.
What was it like going through and getting your master's degree? Was it like, did they really focus on like a positive side of veganism, or was it like you can be vegan kind of thing?
Well, it was holistic nutrition. So they were definitely more about plant-based. It wasn't a completely vegan program. I didn't think that any existed yet back then that I knew of. So yeah, but it really focused a lot on health and preventing disease with diet,
Mm-hmm.
which was definitely my passion and what I loved most about it. But it never, I can't remember. I mean, it's been so long. We didn't talk about, there wasn't a lot about meat or anything like that. And I did study some Chinese medicine, and there is kind of a balance there. There's never any dairy talk in Chinese medicine that I can recall. But I definitely did all the the kooky holistic stuff. Like my my electives were like aromatherapy and things like that, because I was like, that's cool, I like all that kooky stuff. So but yeah, it was really neat. I loved it. I loved all the books we read. We had some really out there kind of experiments and things that we had to conduct, and I loved it.
So how do you take that into your approach now?
Well, it was back in 2001 when I finished all that. And then I went to culinary school in New York, and then I came back and then to LA. And when I was here, I ended up falling into PR. So I didn't end up really doing anything with my degrees or my training. It was mainly more for my own knowledge. I didn't want a private chef or work at a restaurant or anything like that. I really just kind of wanted to experiment with vegan food. So I just kind of left it on the side, and it was nice to have that knowledge. But I ended up falling into PR. And then in 2005, and I traveled a lot for work. So back then I was doing a lot of the, MacGyver cooking in my hotel room and packing my suitcase full of stuff, like protein powders and Luna bars and things like that. And then in 2005, I thought, you know what? I was watching some travel show, and I think it was one of those man versus food type things. And I was like, who the hell's going to go to find like the 20-pound burger, or who's going to go eat the crickets in the rainforest? These are not really helpful to the viewer who wants to travel. And I thought, I'm sure there are a million people like me who are either vegan or gluten-free or diabetic or whatever that have difficulty traveling and need kind of a resource. So I thought, well, shoot, I'm going to do this travel show. So I started pitching it around, and I had a lot of networks who loved it, but it was way too early for them to think of anything special diet, let alone healthy. Mm-hmm. And that's what I heard verbatim from a network. They were like, oh my God, we love it, but we just don't do healthy. And I was like, well, that's kind of the point, dudes. Like, everyone on your channel is a little hefty. But I was like, no problem. So I ended up just launching it on my own in 2006, and I started shooting it as a web series for YouTube early in the YouTube days. And then I had the site that kind of went along with it. In 2007, I launched that. And now it's just snowballed into a full healthy and green living brand. So kind of a necessity for me that I thought might be a good resource for other people has now become my full-time gig. So it's all good stuff.
So what are some of like the favorite things that you've done because of the success with it?
I would say I love the travel. Like, I get to go to some pretty rad places and do some pretty rad stuff. Like, I got to go to Kenya with Richard Branson, and that was pretty cool. I got to jump out of a plane over the Australian outback a few months ago, which was not on my bucket list, by the way. I never wanted to jump out of a plane, and I did it because they offered it to me, and I was like, well, I'm not going to turn that down and look like a fool. So while I hated it, it was funny when I landed, they were like, so do you want to go up again? I was like, nope, I'm good.
You hated it?
Well, I wasn't as scared as I thought I would be going up or jumping out. Uh-huh. But one thing that no one ever told me, or I never really thought of, and it could have just been my adrenaline catching up with me once we were coasting, was I got super motion sickness, like super like nauseous.
Okay.
And there's a part in the video where you see me like put my hand over my mouth, like dry heave. And I was like, nobody told me about this. And I was pretty kind of out of sorts for a couple of hours after. Like, I remember I got back to the hotel and I laid on the floor, and I told my husband to like, go get me a Sprite now. And that's I didn't like so much. Like, I just felt kind of like woozy. But I don't know that it was motion sickness, more that maybe my body was like, all right, now we can let the adrenaline go, But I don't have to ever do it again.
Me and Jordan went skydiving together, and like right when that chute opens, it was the most peaceful, like serene experience I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
I did like the free fall. It's just the only part is psyching yourself out when you're going up. Mm-hmm. And it was funny, like that plane trip was a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. I was like, I was going to go up and jump out. It took like 20, 30 minutes, circling up and up and up. And I was like, whoa, we're getting high up there. but once you're up there, you're like, whatever. I mean, doesn't matter if it was 10,000 feet less or more. I mean, you're still out. But and I was the first one to go too. So it was the putting your legs over the side, and like I remember the guy saying, well, the last thing that goes on is your goggles, and that's when you know when we're gonna go. So as soon as he told me that, that's when I was like, oh my God, this is it, man. The goggles, So that was a weird experience. I mean, I'm glad I did it. I really am glad that I did it.
It might be better that you did go first, because when you see people getting just sucked out of that plane, it freaks you out. It's
like, it doesn't suck.
Yeah. It's like you don't really have to jump. It's
yeah. Well, the thing that I was worried about before I'd ever done it was I hate that feeling of dropping and losing my stomach.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, no, you don't feel it. I'm like, you guys are so full of it. Like I'm sure you feel it, but they're right. You don't feel it at all.
Yeah, I had no sensation of falling whatsoever.
No. Yeah, it was awesome. And that's the thing too. When I was up there, I was like, just get me out of this little hot plane, because I know that once I'm out, I'm fine.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that once it was that initial like, then I was totally fine, except for the almost puking and hitting my tandem guy.
How is the scenery for you? Because I always feel bad for people like in Kansas that go skydiving, because you're like, what are you just looking at cornfields? Like,
yeah, it's funny. People do it out here in California, like in the Inland Empire, and it's just kind of like rural, but also like strip malls and stuff. I'm like, no, it's not. The reason why I did it was it was offered to me by this resort we were staying at in Australia, and it was over Ayers Rock, which is like one of two major landmarks in Australia, one being the Sydney Opera House, and the other one is this thing. It's this massive rock in the outback. And it's like all red and massive and desert and cool. And like all the Aborigines, have all these stories about this place. It's super ancient and cool. And so I was like, all right, if I'm going to do it anywhere, it's going to be here. So it was pretty fantastic. I got to see the top of that rock, which they don't let you climb much anymore. Because the Aborigines don't like it because it's such a sacred space.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really, really hot. It was like 100 and something. You would fry your face off. So it's very rare that you get a chance to climb up that rock. So I got to see a side of it that most people don't get to see. So it was cool. It was super cool.
That's awesome. I would totally go anytime anyone ever wants to offer. So please offer. I will go.
Me too. It's so fun.
So how does one go about pitching ideas to networks?
Well, when I was in PR, I did a lot of entertainment PR. So I had a lot of friends that worked at like reality show producers and stuff. And I was also kind of pitching a lot of reality shows at the time with a company. So I had ins that way. So I knew how to do the sizzle reel and the pitch letters and all that kind of stuff. So, I had gotten some meetings and stuff through friends and some contacts. So I was pretty fortunate, that I was kind of in that world already. And I still have a lot of those contacts. And it's funny, I remember thinking, I was like, well, if you don't want it now, you're going to come to me later. And sure enough, like I have a lot of incoming calls now about the travel show or working with brands. Like I worked with Virgin for a while. And I'm going to be working with JetBlue and Best Western and things like that. So it's fun to work with brands that are interested in what I do. And, I get to partner with people who are looking for that kind of content. So it's fun.
Do you like the independence of being on your own?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I haven't worked a job since like 2000. Yeah. Because I had my own PR firm. So I broke off from that world and did that on my own. And I did events in PR for a while. And now I do this. And sure, sometimes it's scary when you're like, feast or famine, and you're like, hey, I haven't gotten a check in a while, it's kind of tough. But then you'll get like a couple fat checks. You're like, all right, this is going to be what I float on for a while. But, and my husband's freelance too, but I'd rather work for myself and be able to kind of have the flexibility. And granted, you work harder, harder for yourself than you work for anybody else, because I'll work 16 hours a day. If I'm not traveling, I'm in front of my computer busting my butt. So it's a lot of work, but at least it's for me. And if I'm like, you know what, I'm sick of working, I'm going to watch a movie, or I'm going to go to dinner with my friend, or it's nice. It's really nice. I mean, granted, it's also nice when you get a paycheck steadily every week and you don't have to worry about, where the next dollar is coming from. But I've learned in the many years that I've worked for myself, it always kind of works out and you find a way,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I love it. And I love that my work lets me see the world and meet all kinds of neat people and stuff my face with awesome vegan food and have celebrities on my show, my cooking show, and do really fun stuff. So it's hard work, but when you look at it, it's fun.
So being a vegan traveler, where should every vegan avoid?
Middle America. I feel awful saying that, but it's true. Like, I have been to the African bush staying with the Maasai warriors and ate more incredible vegan food there than I did in Idaho just a few months ago. Like, it's so funny. I was in Idaho for a press trip and it felt like I was transported back to 1998 when I first became vegan, because there was literally nothing and everyone looked at me weird, and I was like, whoa, there are still parts that have not been touched by the vegan, vegetarian, healthy vibe, It was funny. Yeah. My first night there, I had a dry baked potato and I picked the tomatoes out of somebody's caprese salad and wiped it off. And I put salt and pepper and chopped up tomatoes in my dry potato. And that was my dinner. And I was just like, well, I remember these days. I know, like.
Where in Idaho were you?
Oh, what was the town? Idaho Falls.
Idaho Falls. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a little...
I could totally see that being a shithole.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was pretty, but and it was kind of rainy, but it was very pretty. It was very pretty, and I was there for the potato commission, and they're super nice, and I had fun on the trip, but it was really tough finding food. Yeah, it was nutty, but it was super bizarre.
Lots of people are always surprised when they come to Salt Lake of how big the scene is here and how much we have to offer.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you guys are like starting to rival Portland with the amount of stuff you have.
Yeah.
Trust me, it 20 years ago it was not that way.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it was horrible.
But you go to a lot of conventions. How do people at conventions react to being vegan, and what are some of your favorite conventions?
Yeah, it's funny. I go to a bunch of different ones. I go to the travel ones. I go to the blogger ones. I go to the food ones. And I'm always kind of the odd man out in every one. So at the food ones, I'm the only vegan or the vegan travel one. At the travel ones, I'm definitely the only vegan or the vegan foodie one.
Mm-hmm.
At the blogger ones, and I do a lot because I'm Latina too, so I do a lot of the Latina stuff. I'm almost always the only vegan at those.
Yeah.
So like I always kind of am the odd man out, which I love. I love being the weirdo. And it's fun. It's fun kind of seeing the world, how it's grown so much in the last, because I've been doing this since 05, 06. And back then, I mean, I felt like I was just talking into a vacuum and no one could hear me speak. And there was no Twitter. There was no Facebook. At the time, there was MySpace, but no one used it for business, So now to see how much it's grown and how crazy it is, and also like to kind of be like, man, I did it the hard way for so long, and now you mofos just have a WordPress plugin and do it yourselves, and now it's so much easier now. It's funny to be like the granny, like back in my day when I had to build it with HTML. It's pretty funny, but yeah, no, I love it. I love meeting new people and collaborating with new people and just seeing who's doing what, and I like when you find people that are genuine, and because of course, like with any industry, there are certain groups and cliques and things like that, and you find people that don't want to help or whatever. But I do like when you find those people that you love to see at certain conventions, like you have your friends, that you hang out with at conventions, or you want to work with or help promote or collaborate with, and I love that aspect of it. It's like virtual high school. in so many ways, because there's the douchebags still, just like high school, and then there's the the cool people or the fun people, and it's nice.
So do you tend to like certain conventions over others? Like, do you like the animal rights and vegan conventions or more than you'd like the travel conventions? Or
I have to say my favorite ones are the Latino ones, and that's mainly because we drink and dance a lot. And it's a way more chill vibe. Like everything's just like, I've been to some where it's very, very boring, and just a lot of just like, there's one, and I won't mention it, but I hated it. And it was like a full weekend starting at like 7 a.m. going till like midnight, and you got like no sleep because you had to share rooms with people. And like there was somebody snoring in my room, so it kept me up all night. And then you're just in this room all day listening to these people talk, and you're just tired. And I was like, oh my God. And the food was awful. And it was a foodie convention too. And I was like, whoa, this is bad. So it's really funny. Like, and it felt very much for beginning bloggers. So I was super bored with what I was hearing, because I was like, I know all this stuff, so it's tough. I normally only go to conventions if I'm speaking on a panel or I have a booth or, whatever it is. Just because I find that a lot of the times now, a lot of the sessions are geared more towards people who want to learn new stuff. But I've been to so many, and, they do change a lot, and it's fun to schmooze. But yeah, it depends. It depends on the vibe. Some of the foodie ones are fun. I love Expo West. Not that that's a bloggery convention, but I just get to eat all day long, which is nice. And it's funny, I've been going to that since 2006, before it was ever a media thing. I think it just kind of was starting to be that. But now it's so many bloggers are there, and I feel bad for a lot of the companies, because they just have to hand out free stuff to everybody, because there are a lot of people who just want freebies. And, back in the day, it really was just for buyers to get their products in stores. So it's changed a lot over the time that I've been going. It's overwhelming and huge and exhausting, but there's always some good loot and good food to be had at Expo West.
I'm surprised that you were one of the first person that we talked to, and you happened to just be vegan over at the New Media Expo.
Yeah. It was
crazy.
Super random.
Yeah.
I was kind of upset I didn't get a chance to go. So sorry I didn't get a chance to meet you, but.
Well, I'll have to come to Salt Lake and stuff my face.
Definitely.
So as the vegan community, what are some things that you wish the community was better at or was doing differently?
That's a good question. I feel like there's a lot of negativity and douchebaggery within our own community, and
towards each other or towards outsiders?
Both.
Yeah.
There's I think it's that whole, I'm better than you because I'm an animal rights vegan, or I'm better than you because I'm a health vegan. There's that within the community. And that just makes things worse for the outside community, because they look at that and they're like, ugh, vegans, that's always the knee-jerk reaction from a non-vegan is, oh God, you're vegan, and I don't blame them, because, you look in from the outside, you're like, oh my God, what a bunch of jerks fighting amongst themselves about who's better, and then I also find that you get more bees with honey. Like I've been vegan since 98. And I always get the, oh, wow, you don't look vegan. I'm like, I don't really know what that means, but okay. But it's funny. And I have to say, like, most of my family's vegan now, and a lot of friends, and I found that because I portray a more mainstream kind of vibe, I guess, that I've been able to infiltrate, so to speak, the mainstream world in a way that a more hardcore vegan might not have been able to, which is kind of the whole point that all of us are vegan, because we want everyone to go vegan. whether it's for animals, whether it's for the environment, whether it's for health, whatever it is, we want people to see it's not social suicide to go vegan, and it's better for everyone and all that good stuff, right? And I find that with any, and I mean, veganism can be labeled as extremist, right? For a lot of people, but with any extreme thing, people that aren't in it tend to be a little frightened by it. I mean, like, no one wants someone going up to their face and being like, you're going to be Muslim tomorrow. And you're like, what? I don't know, So it's kind of the same thing for vegans that, that go up and yell at people and scream at people. And no one likes to be yelled at. No one likes to be told, you're a jerk for doing X, Y, and Z, because it does feel personal. So I feel like if we could all just get along, but if we could be a little more tolerant towards people who aren't, mainly because we were kind of all there once too. It's only now that kids are being raised vegan, like we weren't, so like, and we didn't get it until we got it, and then you're like, holy shit, like, wow, now I know. And so I feel like the more we can just lead by example, the more people will be like, man, that dude is cool, or that chick is cool, and she doesn't seem like a jerk, or she didn't yell at me for X, Y, and Z. Like, maybe I should try it. Oh my God, this is really good food. Like, I feel like planting seeds is better than like, a water balloon in the face,
How much of that do you think has to do with that? It seems like the majority of people that are vegan are usually from the younger generation. Like, they usually make that step in, their late teens, early 20s. So they're still maturing, but then all of a sudden it's like this huge new, like, I just learned this, why doesn't everyone fucking know this type of
yeah.
Yeah. So it's like veganism almost seems like it's still in its infancy in so many different ways.
Yeah. Well, I think because, think about when we were in our 20s. I mean, and that's when I kind of found out about it, and I was like, what? But you're so idealistic in your teens and 20s, like, I'm going to change the world. And then, you hit almost 40 and you're like, yeah, what an idiot. But, but like, it is funny. I mean, that's kind of where, I mean, you think about throughout time, the people who changed the world, they were the idealistic 20 something, that pushed that world, So, and I think that as that generation gets older, it's going to just, permeate society. And it is kind of now. I mean, when I went vegan, it was like 0% population. And now it's like, I think like 3% of the population.
Yeah, that's what last I heard was 3 vegan. Yeah.
Yeah, which is huge. I remember when it was 1% and I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
And that was just a few years ago. And like, and not even so much vegan, but vegan friendly. Or I hear so many people like, I eat vegan at least 3 times a week. And I'm like, good. Whereas before it's like, and I still hear the jokes. Like, I love when and I love Jimmy Fallon, but like, he'll always make vegan jokes, or, you hear stuff on late night and I'm like, okay. Like, these are old now, but vegan food has come so far. I mean, I remember eating tofu-rella, which was the most disgusting crap in the world, but thinking, whoa, vegan cheese, that was the best.
Mayonnaise was worse. Yeah.
Oh, mayonnaise was horrible. Ugh, I think they still
sell it.
even sell it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. I don't know how, but they do.
They're like living in like a bunker, and they think like that's all, like the world. That's the only thing that exists.
I think they're living purely on like the parents who go out and buy it for their kid, thinking they're doing something nice.
Like the grandparents not knowing what they're buying.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
That's their entire income.
Because I think that's the only time I've ever eaten it.
Tofu-rella and mayonnaise sandwiches. Ugh. Throwback.
I got shudders. Like,
yeah,
so horrible. But I mean, yeah, I think it's changed so much. Like, I love that it's like a cuisine now. Like, hey, what do you want for dinner? Chinese, Mexican, vegan? Like, I like that it's becoming more accepted as really good food, and it's getting to places where it wasn't 15 years ago. Like, chefs are loving it and changing, and like I just heard Jamie Oliver is going vegan 3 times a week, which
wow.
he's done so much for like the health revolution that I think he's going to be the first one that says, "Oh my God, I'm going vegan forever," and everyone's going to like blow their mind, you know. But I think the more we can take steps to just like be okay with progress and not perfection, I think that's the thing. Because, you know, no one's a perfect vegan and no one's a perfect anything, you know? So like, it's just, I don't like the negative crap that surrounds, you know, like I always just end up saying I'm plant-based so that I don't get the look, you know, a lot of the times. Cause they'll be like, "Oh my God." And I'm like, dude, seriously, it's fine. I'm not gonna kill you, you know, like, like, you know, but it is funny. Like I'm like in my head, I am judging you, like, you know, but it's a weird place to be, you know, but it's getting better. It was way worse for me back in the day, but I've always been, it's always been very important to me to cast a wide net and be very mainstream and to be the person that proved that, you know, they're not all hippie, smelly, angry, or whatever people think vegans are. And I think I've done a pretty good job. Like I find that more mainstream people know me than vegans, because I've, you know, kind of put myself out there so much. I've done a lot of TV and a lot of stuff where I always say I'm a wolf in sheep's clothing. I've spoken at like major conventions, like for big corporations. They asked me to come speak on health. And I'm like, all right. And, and I always just kind of, you know, throw it in there. And like at the end, you'd be surprised the questions that I get, people coming up to me and saying all this stuff like, "Oh my God, I watched Forks Over Knives and this, you know," or like I watched Earthlings, and I'm just like, good, you know? So if I feel like I get a lot more opportunities being kind of mainstream than I would if I kind of kept it within our little washing machine of, and that's what I find the big mistake is. We're just kind of keeping it to ourselves. If vegans just kind of keep preaching the same message, you know, preaching to the choir doesn't do anything. And then you're just kind of going around in circles and alienating the people you want to touch with your message, you know? So, you know, I think we're chasing our tails a lot if we keep being angry or yelling at each other. Like I see so many fights on Facebook on like threads, you know, like, "Oh, well, this and that and da-da-da, and that person's a jerk." And you're just like, all right, you know, this is exactly why people don't want to listen, you know? So it's hopefully that'll start to change more and more.
Infighting within the animal rights scene is ridiculous.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons I don't have Facebook and I don't do I just can't do it. But I self-admittedly, when I was, you know, 17, 18, 19, I was one of those assholes. Like,
yeah,
totally.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Well, I was too, like with my own family, like when I'd go home to visit or whatever, I'd be like, "Oh my God, you guys are so gross. I can't believe you're eating that." You know, like total jerky, you know, snotty. But now I'm just like, keep it to myself. And every time, I kid you not, it doesn't matter where I am, I'll be at some business dinner and we'll be at some fancy schmancy place. But I always get a fantastic vegan option because the chef wants to do something incredible, because they're like, "Oh, I get to experiment off menu." And I kid you not, everybody wants to try my dish. And I'm like, dude, this is the only thing I can eat. Like, you're going to eat all of my dish. And like, you should have ordered the vegan meal. You know, a lot of people are like, "Oh, I should have ordered that." I'm like, that's right. You should have.
You know, I tell people this all the time and I get strange looks. Unfortunately, I have to go to quite a few steakhouses for work. Yeah. And the nicer the steakhouse, I swear to God, the better the meal.
It's true.
Yeah.
Oh,
they bend over backwards for you.
Yeah. I love it. And it's funny because that's a perfect example. A lot of vegans will not set foot in a steakhouse, but I will because it's my job to schmooze with whoever, or I'm out of town on business. And I also find that if we are okay with going into a place like that and proving that we can be okay with it, and we will increase the demand for vegan options at all restaurants, you know, and they will bend over backwards. Like I have had some of the best, most beautiful gourmet meals at steakhouses, even better than like at a vegan restaurant.
Yeah.
I had my favorite sweet potato prepared at a steakhouse ever. to date. Like I've never had one. Oh, it was just like amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think that like the chefs get excited because they're like, oh, good, I get to cook something different. And I find that they get happy about whatever's in their kitchen that they can use. and I find that they use really innovative stuff. You know, it's not just like a fake chicken with like pasta, you know, it's like a beautiful stuffed pepper with quinoa and all these seasonal vegetables or something crazy. I remember I was in Pensacola with my husband when he was my boyfriend way back when, and he surprised me with some 5-course meal at this fancy steakhouse, which is like the only fancy place in Pensacola. And so I was like, all right. And it was one of the most beautiful meals I've ever had. They had like a wine pairing with each one, and each dish was more beautiful than the next. And I was like, holy cow, you know? So yeah, I mean, if people are more open to trying and showing that, hey, you know what, if I'm out being social with people or doing business, I'll have a salad and French fries if I have to. But more likely than not, you're going to be really surprised with what you get.
I like you brought up the idea of like Jimmy Fallon, you know, making vegan jokes and stuff. And 15 years ago, that would actually bother me. Now I absolutely love it.
I do too.
Like,
because it's out there.
Exactly. Like I used to go to a restaurant and say the word vegan, then have to explain what it was, you know, and now they know what it is most of the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I've noticed like with the jokes, sometimes it's like,
sometimes it's true.
It's well, yeah.
Yeah.
And they said that the government came out and said that we could save the planet by going vegan, so we're doomed. Like,
Yeah.
like that kind of stuff is funny.
Again, true.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I love it. And like, I'll hear the word at least once a day on TV, whether it's on a scripted show or the news or a late night show or something. I hear it almost every day now. And I'm just like, whoa, now it's becoming like white noise to me. Whereas before it would stand out to me like, oh my God, they said vegan on TV, you know? And now I'm like, yeah, it's everywhere now. And it's super cool.
Have you ever seen the studies on the people who make dietary choices and the longevity of those choices? Like I think like there was a recent one that people that make like switch to veganism usually last about 3 to 7 years, I think is what the range was. Do you like have any advice on how to like prolong that, you know, into like lifetime?
Well, I think it's a matter of priorities. I think everyone goes vegan for different reasons. And I think people leave it for different reasons, whether it's they married someone who's not vegan, or they got pregnant and started eating meat and then never went back, or, you know, everyone has their funky reasons. Like for me, there isn't a chance in hell that I would ever not be vegan.
Yeah.
I'll die vegan. But like, I don't know that. And the thing is, I'm kind of an all or nothing kind of person. So I'm a weirdo in that way, like how I went vegan without even going vegetarian, just cold turkey. Like I'm kind of one of those weirdos that has willpower, you know, whereas like a lot of people don't necessarily, whether it's, you know, a lot of people's excuses, oh, well, it's too hard, or I travel too much. And I'm like, dude, I'm the living example. Like that's bullshit, you know? But I think it's a matter of priorities. Like what is important to you? If you did it for health, why now are you changing your mind about what you felt so strongly about? I mean, the science is there, you know, so what drew you away from that? You know, I find that a lot of people are also very, not gullible, but easily persuaded. Like I just heard that freaking Bill Clinton went paleo. And I was like, dude, he was like the vegan poster child forever. And he was on all these documentaries, but Dr. Mark Hyman was like, nope, you should go paleo. And I'm like, dude, that's the whole reason why you had a gajillion bypass, dude. Like, why are you going paleo? So I feel like some people are very easily influenced to change their minds. And it could be, yeah, society, like pressures of their spouse or their family or their kids or whatever it might be, where they're just like, I just don't want to be the odd man out. And I think that's more psychological, like wanting to fit in, I guess, you know, maybe like, or yeah, I mean, for some people, they still think it's hard, but now it's ridiculous how easy it is to be vegan. I mean, the alternatives out there and the recipes, I mean, it really just is not hard anymore. And unless you're in Idaho Falls, but, but I mean, yeah, I mean, it's too easy now to make that excuse. So I think to expect that some people are going to leave veganism it's just something that's part of it, because some people just don't have it in them to stick to anything. How you do anything is how you do everything, right? So I think people that don't stick to it, they might not have stick-to-itiveness in any aspect of their life. So maybe their love of animals wasn't enough, or their health was not enough. Because I think a lot of the times too, like, people who do it for health reasons, and if they're like, oh, well, I'm still healthy, like, I'm good, people really take their health for granted until they don't have health anymore, So, or, because they're not looking at animal stuff going on as much, or they've shied away from it, or they have friends who are like, meh, So I don't know. I think it's more of a personal psychological thing, why people leave. But I've heard the gamut of excuses. But the main one, of course, is it's too hard. And I'm like, no way, dude. It was really hard 20 years ago. It was stupid hard. And I should have bailed back then when I was eating tofu-rella, but I didn't. I did not. And I can prove to you it's easy. But yeah, I don't know. It is always sad when I hear somebody say that, and I'm like, geez. Oh, well, my doctor told me I needed more iron. I'm like, dude, eat more spinach. Eat more. Like, it's not that hard. Eat some more vegan sushi. You're good in the hood. But yeah, people just they like to shimmy and shift out of whatever passion thing that they like, and I kind of find that those people were never really fully into it anyway. So yeah, it's a weird thing.
I hear like the cheese alternative one or the cheese one all the time, but the alternatives now are like so good. The coconut oil based stuff is amazing.
Oh yeah. Oh totally. I mean, yeah, the new cheeses now. I remember I was in Europe a couple years ago, and I was in Berlin, and they have a vegan grocery store chain, and I spent about 100 euros just on cheese because they had like an entire case of vegan cheeses, and I was like, what? And I just ate my face off with cheese. And I was so surprised. I was like, how come the cheese in the States blows compared to this stuff? Like, this is insane. And I remember I came back and I bought the domain Vegan World Imports. I was like, I'm going to import this and I'm going to get rich. And I never did, because it's a pain in the ass to import food. And
so it's your fault we don't have it.
It's totally my fault. But like 2 years later, Follow Your Heart and Field Roast now import that cheese, because if you look at the back of the packages, it says product of Greece. And the company that makes all the good vegan cheeses in Europe is a Greek company. They make one for Italy, they make one for Greece, and they make one for Germany. And it's the same company. It's Violife. And so they're the ones that manufacture the Field Roast and the Follow Your Heart cheese. So oddly enough, we still don't make it here in the States, but I don't care. It comes from the source. And their new Parmesan cheese hasn't come out yet, Violife's, but it's like a gradable Parmesan block, and it's jam. I mean, now at this point, there's literally zero excuse to not be vegan. It's just stupidity at this point.
So I was so young when I went vegan and so poor. I never really experienced real cheese. So like,
you stick with the nutritional yeast?
Well, no, but what my parents, before I went vegan, it was just like the really cheap, shitty cheddar and then cheap American. And that was like my cheese experience before I went vegan.
Yeah.
And then veganism, cheese was horrible, right? And then so I loved making nooch cheeses. Like I love like nutritionally, and so like that's what I prefer today.
Yeah.
And I love like Follow Your Heart and all the ones out there. They're great, but I
No, I definitely have a taste for nutritional yeast.
Yeah, I'm just not.
Oh, me too.
I don't get like super excited about the new cheeses. I'm like, oh, that's cool, but
you haven't tried those new cheeses yet.
No, I don't. Yeah, no, it's true.
You have no idea. No idea.
Your mind will be blown. Well, it's crazy too. Like if you go to, like I go to my Whole Foods, and now there's like an enormous selection of vegan cheeses now. And I'm like, even like 3 years ago, all there was like the Go Veggie slices and a couple things. You're like, meh, and Follow Your Heart had the blocks. And I always kind of went for those. But like now it's like, oh, there's way too many options, which is super rad.
I'm in the new ones that you say were imported from Greece. They're almost like string cheese, how I remember it as a kid. That's kind of the taste, I think.
Well, Follow Your Heart has a string cheese made of that stuff.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Where
string
am I?
cheese and like they're like little ones you can put in your lunchbox. They're like single thin blocks that are individually wrapped, and those are like good for lunch boxes. And I was like, dude, you guys did it. You did it.
So awesome.
It was so awesome.
So what are some cool projects you're working on now or planning to work on in the future?
Let's see. I've got my my tour to Italy in July. There's still some spaces left for that. It's a vegan tour of Naples, the Amalfi Coast, and Pompeii, where we will be touring all that stuff and staying at B&Bs where private chefs make us all this organic, awesome vegan food. I'll be doing a couple nights demos and stuff. For the most part, I'll just be hanging out with the guests and eating and drinking. And so there's that. So that's super cool. That info is on my website, or you can go to greenearthtravel.com. And I think it's Vegano Italiano. If you just look up Vegano Italiano, you'll find all the info there. But that's pretty rad. And we have some spots left for that. And just a bunch more of my travel show and my cooking show. And I'm hoping mid to later this year to start I wouldn't say I would launch it just yet, but working on the development of my own food line. So it'll be healthy, vegan, to-go food. So from snacks, and then eventually it'll be a food line, like frozen foods, dehydrated foods, things that you can take with you. So that's in the works. And
well, if you need testers, let us know.
For sure. I'll send some your way. Working on a couple other cookbooks and guidebooks and ebooks and online classes and all kinds of nutty things. And there hopefully in the next year will be a vegan baby in my belly. So that's going to take up a lot of time.
That's super exciting. Being a vegan parent is amazing, by the way. I absolutely love it. But speaking of that, you also mentioned the Follow Your Heart cheeses, like for lunch boxes. It's one of the things that me and my wife are constantly struggling with, is trying to make our daughter's lunches diverse and healthy, and that she enjoys and doesn't get picked on for. Because, it's just one of the things you worry about. What kind of suggestions would you have for some good lunchbox suggestions?
Well, I always feel like kids' palates are underestimated. Like I always hate when I see parents just give their kids like chicken nuggets or pizza off the kids menu at a restaurant. I'm like, dude, you're making their palates disgusting and bland, Like I love when I see parents give their kids sushi. I'm like, good, give your kid all kinds of weird stuff, because that way their palates will be much more sophisticated, and they'll try new things and they'll want to try new things and eat healthy, So I find that making the lunchbox diverse in a way that isn't going to, don't give them like the spiciest thing or whatever, but like making it different, like make vegan sushi one day, and you can make it different. It doesn't have to have the usual like cucumber, avocado, whatever. You can put like vegan cheese in it or tempeh, like fun rolls. Mm-hmm. So like having fun with your sushi rolls is always good. Sandwiches are always a staple, but like quinoa salads and like neat things that are dippable. I mean, kids love those stupid Lunchables, which are the most disgusting things in the world. But yeah, like assembly kind of things, like, make your own pizza or make your own sandwiches or dips, like you've got hummus and you've got salsa and you've got guacamole, like a dip, sampler. So getting creative, like with things that they already like and maybe pushing the envelope a little bit, I don't know if they're able to heat up their food, because I know a lot of kids don't get to do that. It's kind of a cold lunch. So that kind of limits certain things they can have unless they like cold lasagna. But yeah, I think really experimenting and being more international with meals will help open up their palate to new things instead of just the usual, vegan bologna sandwich and a granola bar,
It's funny you mentioned the vegan sushi. One of the things that we have found and my daughter loves is the inari pouches.
Yeah.
Oh, she loves those in her lunch.
Those are really awesome.
So you said that you think that people should be more like international or global about their food. Kind of makes me think about your cookbook, Global Kitchen.
Yeah.
And I was just curious. Like how you went about like choosing your recipes and the whole process behind that.
Well, what I wanted to do was create a book that was kind of twofold. One was like, hey, I've traveled to these places and I couldn't eat these foods because it wasn't vegan, or I did travel there before I was vegan and now I want to have Wiener Schnitzel at home, but I'm vegan now. What do I do? So that, or for people like me who grew up, I'm Colombian, and I grew up when I went vegan, I was like, oh my God, I can't eat any of this stuff anymore. And I grew up in Miami, so I had a lot of Cuban food too. So being able to veganize foods that people grew up with, so whatever their heritage was, I wanted to really create healthy, vegan, and also gluten-free, oil-free, soy-free for people who wanted to. So like the main recipe is vegan, and then there are options for making it gluten-free, soy-free, oil-free for whatever diet you might be on. So that people can re-experience those dishes that they grew up with, no matter what their background was. So if you were German, you're like, oh my God, I can eat Wiener Schnitzel again. Or if I was Russian, I can have, borscht again, So I really wanted it to be traditional recipes from those countries and regions that people could experience and make it as close to the original traditional recipe as it could be, so that you really felt like you were having that dish again. So it was really important to me to make it as traditional as possible, and not try to like make anything fun with it. Like this is Chinese style or this is Italian style, which a lot of people are like, oh, well, a lot of these dishes, have meat in them. I'm like, well, that was kind of the point. I wanted to veganize traditional folk dishes. So you can use tofu or seitan if you want, but if you want to use gardein, you can too, so it's kind of something for everybody. And I also felt like it was a good way for non-vegans to start experiencing vegan food, to learn about new cultures and new dishes. Because, there's the staple stuff in there, like some Italian stuff and a lot of Mexican stuff. But then there's Russian stuff and African stuff. And I think it's a good way for families to kind of learn something new about a culture or their traditional food, or try something new. And not everyone gets to travel the world. So this is kind of a way to bring the world to you. And I have like fun facts about how each recipe kind of came to be in that culture, or some other kind of fun fact about it. So, I wanted it to just kind of bring the world to you in a vegan way.
So what's like the trial and error process?
A lot of trial and error. Well, all the Latin stuff I already knew, and all the American stuff I already had. And then from my travels, I would remember, oh, this dish was really popular. I want to veganize that at home. So a lot of it was just me remembering things that were popular on menus that I would see when I was out traveling. Or like talking to friends who were, Russian or whatever, and finding out what they grew up with. Because I wanted it to be like home cooking kind of stuff. And then it was messing with the recipe. But then once I kind of got them down, then I had recipe testers try them. And, they would tell me, oh, it didn't work, or this worked, or the wording is off in this. Or so we tweaked all the recipes with my recipe testers. And then the last test was with my photographer, having her make sure it turned out right and looked the right way. And so every recipe in the book works. So it's pretty good stuff. It was not an easy task, but it was good.
I'm not usually a huge cookbook person, but I was at Jordan's house the other day and I was flipping through it. I absolutely loved the layout of it. Like,
oh, thanks.
It's so you have like your little hints and your tidbits. I just love the whole layout of it, how it's organized. And I was super jealous that he had it, because now I have to get it, because it's truly an awesome cookbook. I really, really love it.
Thank you. Yeah, I have a lot of fun with it, and I love when people will tell me. Like, I think Mariana, she posted that she did my chimichurris, portobello mushrooms the other day, and I love that one because it's really easy.
Yeah,
because you just throw the sauce in the blender, you make it, and you marinate the mushrooms. And I have tons of carnivores who love that recipe.
I just love chimichurri. It's so good.
I didn't get to
so
try
good.
any. What's going on?
Well, whatever. Bring over some portobellos. And have a party.
BYOP. Bring your own portobellos.
Well, so how can people actually get in contact with you and follow your work and, get your cookbook?
Yes, you can go to healthyvoyager.com, which is my website. And I'm everywhere on social media. So Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram. Just look up Healthy Voyager. And on YouTube, I have my new channel, which is Healthy Voyager TV. So all one word. If you look that up, you'll see my travel show and my cooking show. And you can subscribe to all that stuff. And my cookbook, there are links to it on my page. You can also go to Amazon or just Google The Healthy Voyager's Global Kitchen. I'm going to be coming out with a second edition of the book next year, I think. So look out for that. There'll be some more recipes, updated stuff. So all good stuff. Just look up Healthy Voyager and you'll find me.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a lot of fun. We end every episode saying "fuck, shit, damn." Would you mind saying it for us this week?
Of course. Fuck, shit, damn.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's been fun.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, have a good weekend.
You too.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
This week you heard
Feelin' Kinda Crazy by Future Rhythm Foundation.
Right now you're listening to
What Would You Do by Mike Delgado. iTunes. Go rate and review us, please. It's pretty simple. If you've already done it, high five. If you haven't, low five. Because, everyone deserves a 5. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and if you've already done it, then do it on your friends' accounts. Do it on your mom's account. Do it on your dad's account.
And double high five.
Rate and review. Ghost review.
Hashtag
ghost review.
Just steal someone's device and review it for us. Come on, people. Give it back to them, of course. You don't want to keep it forever.
Yeah, that's rude.
Yeah. Just be like, yo, bro.
Check out this podcast. If you're not friends with us yet on social media, be our friends. Like us. Follow us. Whatever the social media equivalent of liking or following is on the social media that you choose, do it. And we often say things that we don't talk about on the podcast, so check us out.
Yeah. What Jordan said. WhичSidePodcast.com.
Peace.
Fuck, shit, damn.
That's what we say.
Which Side Podcast is hosted and produced by Jordan Halliday and Jeremy Parkin of the Which Side Media Collective, with web design by Jordan Halliday and sound design by Jeremy Parkin. Booking by Mari Halliday. Theme music by Commandantes. Go to whichsidecollective.org to check out the other shows in the collective. As always, fuck, shit, damn.